Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report, today for January the 20th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news show meant to bring you the hottest news from around the industry, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, right here on YouTube and podcast services around the world. So if you enjoy the show, you like what you see, be sure to hit that subscribe button and keep yourself in the know on your platform of choice. But one big announcement I do want to make is that the show has traditionally been hosted in the morning. It generally has been hitting sub boxes between 6 and 7 a.m. Now, we're flipping that on its head because I have more time at night and it makes more sense for me to get more sleep in the morning. I can stay up later, streaming potentially, maybe watching Netflix, maybe playing with my cat, and so that's what we're doing. So now, instead of hitting the show around 6 or 7 a.m., you can now find it on your podcast feeds and YouTube sub boxes, probably somewhere between 7 and 8 p.m. That's just going to be the nature of the beast going forward. So now with that being said, we have some pretty big news to dive into today, along with some stuff to cover that broke over the weekend. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's top news. First off, Dying Light 2 has been delayed to an unknown date, with more details to follow in the coming months. This was a bit of a shocker for a lot of people. Yet another spring game has been delayed, as today, developer Techland announced Dying Light 2 will not make its scheduled release window. Originally planned for release sometime this spring, Techland explained more time was needed to, quote, deliver an experience that lives up to our own high standards and the expectations of you, our fans. We know you are awaiting the game eagerly and we want to deliver exactly what we promised. We apologize for this unwelcome news. And of course, there's the entire statement that you can find on the official Dying Light Game Twitter account. As of yet, there is no word on when the game will now be released, but Techland says it will share more details in the coming months. This was another one that kind of had that Cyberpunk 2077 syndrome, where the release date was coming up, at least the time frame was, spring 2020 quickly approaching, and there had been no word, no gameplay, no real talk about the game whatsoever from the industry, or on top of that, directly from Techland. So some people had begun to probably suspect something was going on. The big story here is that there's no release date, no time frame, no information given. It's just not happening in the spring, and it looks to be not happening anytime soon. And personally, my hypothesis here is that it's going to become a completely next generation game. I think that after this delay, there really is no point in putting it out on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One unless it comes out very late 2020, very early 2021. Otherwise, just make it a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X game and you are good to go. Now, one thing that does complicate that, the Series X is going to not have any exclusives for the first couple of years after its release. So, does that mean that third parties are going to abide by that as well? That's a big question that is yet to be answered, but I suppose we will see how publishers and developers handle that in the coming years. But regardless, Dying Light 2 not coming out anytime soon. However, don't worry, it's still going to come out way before the Dead Island game. We're never going to see that one ever. But Dying Light 2, again, not coming out in spring 2020, now pushed back to an unknown date. I will say one more thing. I was thinking about saying this and I figured that I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there into the world. I would rather have this kind of announcement than have multiple delays, and I think that's probably the perspective that Techland is taking, because if you say it's not coming out in spring 2020, expect it in fall 2020, and then you get to fall and say, man, this game still isn't ready, we're going to have to push it back to spring 2021, just put it on hold, say it's happening, but we're working on it, and then let us know when you are ready. That's the best way to approach this kind of thing. However, there is a time limit on that. I need to know more information on Dying Light by the end of the year. I need to know something, anything. Just let me know that it's okay, you know? It's kind of like a really bad situation if you don't. But that being said, one thing you don't have to wait too much longer for is Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary on PC, because the tests are starting in February, and Halo insiders can get a sneak peek. 343 Industries is planning to start the first public test for Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary next month, according to an update on the forums. Testing or fighting for the next edition of Halo the Master Chief Collection was previously planned for January, but it looks like only 343's external partners will be getting a shot this month, while everyone else will need to wait just a little bit longer. The first test will be a broad one covering various systems and modes. 343 wants to put dedicated servers, crossplay, and the new UI through its paces, letting testers get their hands on the single-player and co-op campaign, multiplayer, customization, and progression. While it looks like there will be a lot to test, players will not be able to run wild. If you get in, you will have limited access to certain areas, much like last year's test for Halo Reach. Combat Evolved is a slightly less exciting prospect, but only because it's one of the few entries in the series that we have actually been able to play on PC. This will be the first time we've been able to play 2011's Anniversary Edition, though. If you've already tested Halo Reach, you should already be set up. Prospective testers will need to sign up to the Halo Insider program, opt in for the test, and be contacted by 343 Industries, and provide a DX diag by uploading one to your profile. If you don't get into the first test, you'll likely have other chances later. There is no release date yet, but the plan is still set to get the entire collection out on PC in 2020. Now, this is very exciting because personally, big Halo guy, big fan of Halo. Now, with that being said, Halo Reach, really good looking game on PC, and the ports are coming along in a fantastic way. I'm very impressed, I'm very proud, and I'm thankful that it is not a repeat of what happened on the Xbox One with the original Master Chief Collection. And I think that this excitement, this positivity coming from the community, that is showcasing just how good of a decision it was to forego lumping them all together, to forego rushing it out on PC. This is a very well-handled restoration of games that are very important to not only gaming as a whole, but specifically the first-person shooter genre. Halo is very influential in that regard, and it should be treated with the care that it deserves, which it looks like 343 absolutely is. But if you are a Halo insider, by all means, next month you can get your hands on Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary on PC. If you are lucky enough, or if you know somebody at 343, you'll probably get pretty lucky on that one. Now, with that being said, Tencent is ramping up investments, but may veer away from games. This is an interesting little tidbit that broke earlier today. Having already poured money into 11 games firms, Chinese giant is concentrating on new industries such as smart retail. Games firms hoping for a significant investment from Tencent may have missed the boat. In a speech to reps of more than 500 Tencent-backed companies last week, the firm's president Martin Lau said there are plans underway to increase its investments overseas into other industries, Reuters reports. Tencent has invested in more than 800 companies to date, over 160 of which are valued at more than $1 billion. Of the 800, 70 are listed in various stock exchanges. A total of 11 companies are based in the video games industry. Quote, previously, our traditional investment sectors were mostly focused on video games content and frontiers of science and technology, said Lau. However, with the development of Tencent's WeChat mini-app ecosystem and payment platform, we will pay more attention to smart retail and payment platforms in the future. Tencent's most recent games investments was the purchase of a 10% stake in Sumo Digital back in November. The company also wholly owns League of Legends developer Riot Games, an 84.3% stake in Supercell, 80% of Grinding Gear Games, 40% of Epic Games, 14.46% of Glue Mobile, 11.5% of Bluehole, 5% stakes in Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, and Paradox Interactive, plus an undisclosed majority take in Miniclip. The ongoing success of these companies suggests Tencent may be open to further investments in the game space, but for now, the company is exploring options in other industries. Now, I'm talking about this on the gaming podcast because of the fact that this is still a pretty big deal, because it shows Tencent is beginning to either hit the threshold they wanted to hit for investment in gaming, or they are losing interest and they're choosing to invest their funds elsewhere. And personally, I think probably it's a little bit of both. It does make a lot of sense, especially considering the international popularity of WeChat, for them to be pursuing stuff like smart retail, for them to be able to drive sales in smaller apps and to be able to potentially develop other new shopping apps that are going to really cater to their specific interest. Now, when it comes to the investments, a lot of people are hesitant about Tencent because of the fact that there are rumors of Chinese spyware. A lot of people are hesitant about Tencent because whenever they own the majority or the entirety of a company, they have a lot of influence at least potential influence over that company itself. And so that makes things very, very complicated, especially from a fan's perspective who might not necessarily want Tencent meddling in their game time or their accounts or anything of the sort. But this does show that Tencent is beginning to get out of the gaming industry, but they are not giving up any of the stake they have in it because they have a pretty heavy hand when it comes to a lot of companies in the gaming industry, and I highly doubt they're going to be backing out anytime soon because it simply doesn't make sense. You've already got your irons in the fire, so why take them out if you are planning on putting them back in the near future? And they are deeply rooted in gaming, which is a good place to be rooted in 2020 and beyond. But regardless, it looks like they're moving more towards smart retail and away from the world of gaming itself. However, the next story comes to us from Nintendo Enthusiast, reported on by John Francia, and of course this is a rumor that 2D Metroid and a traditional Paper Mario are going to release in 2020. The land of rumors where anything can be true and everyone's uncle works at Nintendo. That being said, there are established video game news leakers with strong track records, and Sabi on Twitter ranks highly among the trusted leakers for Nintendo news. And Sabi has just dropped a bombshell to end this Friday night, claiming a new 2D Metroid and a Paper Mario that goes back to what it was are both releasing in 2020 for Nintendo Switch. The 2D Metroid is said to be related to Metroid Fusion, with Sabi believing it is a sequel. If these rumors pan out, it will make Nintendo fans across a broad spectrum explosively happy, and fans have been begging desperately for a traditional Paper Mario RPG for over a decade, as more experimental titles like Sticker Star have received a lukewarm reception. A return to basics could be in order to revitalize the series, especially now that Mario and Luigi very well could be dead. And incidentally, it has been spotted that another leaker, Zippo, made mention of a Paper Mario in development that is a return to form as well. Meanwhile, Metroid Prime 4 looks to be potentially years away still, and a new 2D Metroid related to Metroid Fusion really could scratch an itch. Personally, the author says, I loved Metroid Samus Returns on 3DS, and I would be more than happy to play a brand new title in the franchise that dares to remix some mechanics the way that game did. So what do we make of these rumors? Ask Mr. John Francia over there at Nintendo Enthusiast. I believe they could be legit. Okay, so this is a bit complicated, but considering that Mario and Luigi has been renewed, even though the original developer has been shut down, considering that is a fact that happened last week, that is an event that has taken place, I think that Nintendo might have plans for the RPG elements that are existent in older Mario games. They have some ideas. So I think that Paper Mario could be seeing a comeback. On top of that, a 2D Metroid just makes sense because whenever Samus Returns hit the 3DS a couple of years back, everybody said, why would you not put this out on the Nintendo Switch? That makes zero sense. Now that being said, it sold incredibly well on the 3DS, especially considering the popularity of the 2DS line as well. But I think that shows that there is interest in a 2D Metroid game, and I think that it would be right at home on the Nintendo Switch. In fact, some may call a 2D Metroid game a system seller for the Nintendo Switch. So that is something to take into consideration. But these are some interesting rumors that broke late last week. I thought that I would share them with you. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. But if you are good enough to be a competitive Paper Mario player, then you could join a collegiate team and you could get some scholarship money from the ESA because they have created an eSports scholarship for college competitors. Because, you know, everybody's looking to recruit the hottest Paper Mario pros, but they are recognizing women? I don't know what those are. Recognizing women and minority competitors among the collegiate eSports scene. The Entertainment Software Association is now offering sports scholarships, eSports scholarships. The ESA, the trade organization representing United States video game publishers, announced on Thursday that it is expanding its 20-year-old scholarship program to include eSports competitors in college. The ESA Foundation's eSports scholarship is intended to elevate the participation of women and minorities, who account for a very small percentage of recipients of the eSports scholarships awarded by other organizations. The ESA Foundation's overall goal is to advance opportunities for women and minorities in college and their pathways into the video games industry. Established in 2000, it raised more than $23 million in the 2 decades since. The National Association of Collegiate Esports estimated last year that $16 million in esports scholarships have been awarded since 2016. The NACE comprises more than 170 member institutions across the United States, with more than 5,000 esport competitors enrolled at them. The ESA Foundation's eSports Scholarship joins two others the Foundation annually awards, the Computer and Video Game Arts Scholarship, and a scholarship awarded in conjunction with gay gaming professionals for service to LGBTQ communities. Of course, all applications are now open and will close March 2nd of 2020. So this is cool. Now, you are going to have plenty of people on the internet saying, well, why is it just women and minorities? You've got to be kidding me. I have the best Dota 2 track record on the planet. Listen, man, listen. Everybody's got opportunities. Some people have more opportunities than others. There's nothing wrong with introducing another scholarship to elevate other people, to diversify. That's totally cool in my book. It's all right. Everything's going to work out. So with that being taken into consideration, very cool to see that the ESA is amplifying their investments in collegiate esports, because it certainly is going places without a doubt. Before I graduated from college, my school had a professional Rocket League team that literally went on tours. I'm not even kidding. They went to other schools to play Rocket League. They had LAN parties. It was sick. You love to see it. But by all means, glad to see the ESA getting involved. And of course, right now they are going through a very interesting transformation because, of course, the ESA, pretty much the head of E3 also going through a big transformation. So I think that things are beginning to kind of level out, and everybody is trying to figure out just what both of these organizations, or specifically the ESA, means in 2020, what they stand for, what is their purpose in the modern day. So I suppose we will wait and see. But finally, to round out today's show, a good, feel-good, warm-hearted story for the day. The Xbox Adaptive Controller heartwarmingly allowed someone's kid to play Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time. What a good piece of hardware. Say what you will about Microsoft, but the Adaptive Controller has made some huge headway in the industry. There is a reason why it made Time Magazine's top 10 gadgets of the decade list alongside of the Nintendo Switch, and now the two are about to collide in a completely wholesome way. UK native Rory Steele has a daughter Ava that has HSP, hereditary spastic paraplegia, and a condition that interferes with her ability to use traditional controllers. Enter the Adaptive Controller, which her father tinkered with to make the controls less complicated so that she could handle them. In short, he took the core design of the hardware and hacked it to suit his needs. There is a double great ending to the story. Not only is Ava thrilled that she can play Zelda Breath of the Wild, according to Outlet Channel 103, Logitech and Microsoft are getting in touch with Rory to see how, and if, they can help them in some official capacity. Even Xbox boss Phil Spencer is impressed. Rory is also thinking about doing a video tutorial for the setup so everyone can give it a go. Your wholesome quota for all of 2020 is now fulfilled. And of course, here is Rory Steele and the Xbox Adaptive Controller enhancements that he made for his daughter. This is cool stuff. And I talked about this whenever the Xbox Adaptive Controller itself did hit the market. This is something that has been needed for a long time, and make no mistake, it's not over yet. This need is still existent. But the coolest thing about gaming is that it is for everybody. Anybody can get into a game. Now, that has been said for a long time, but until now, there have been tools there have not been tools that have been able to help those that have specific needs that might not be able to be met by traditional controllers. Specifically, in this specific case, you have what appears to be an Xbox Adaptive Controller that has been modified beyond belief to become somewhat of a modular joystick in a way, and that is absolutely amazing. Now, unfortunately, the reality of the situation is that not everybody can do this. Not every individual has the capabilities of rewiring an entire controller design. Now again, the Xbox Adaptive Controller, very versatile, can be used in a variety of different ways, but again, this is very, very top tier complicated stuff. So hopefully more companies will begin building native compatibility into a lot of their games and build hardware that can allow people like Ava and can allow people with a lot of disabilities the ability to get into the game and play as well. But you love to see it. Thought I would throw that one in there because I love a good feel-good story like that where everybody can get in and everybody can get into the game. But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. Of course, if you enjoyed this one, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about the show, the news start time, anything you got on your mind. I would love to see it in the comment section. But for podcast listeners, thank you for tuning in, and for everybody, again, hit that subscribe button, and I'll be back tomorrow night for a brand new show. But until then, have a good Tuesday, and peace.